You know, for decades we've thought of Iran as this isolated nation, kind of buried under sanctions. But when you look closely, the world's biggest powers seem almost scared to confront it directly. It's a real paradox. So, in this explainer, we're going to dig in and try to figure out what makes Iran such a tough and honestly misunderstood player in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's really the big question, isn't it? Why are they so afraid of Iran? I mean, how does a country that's supposed to be on the ropes, held back by pretty much everyone, still manage to have so much pull? Where is all this power really coming from?
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with that paradox I mentioned. Then we'll look at its massive advantage in geography, its surprisingly modern military, and this new web of powerful friends it's built. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see why the world, kind of reluctantly, has to respect it.
Okay, let's dive right into that paradox. It's this crazy contradiction, right? On one side, you've got a country getting hit with sanctions from all directions. But on the other, you have this force that nobody seems willing to mess with. How does that even work?
I mean, think about it. We've all heard the tough talk from leaders like Donald Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu. Lots of threats, lots of strong words. But when it comes down to it, their actions, they tell a totally different story. There's this hesitation, this clear reluctance to actually go all in on a direct war. It's like there's an invisible line they just won't cross.
And there's a very good reason for that. You talk to military strategists, and they'll tell you a war with Iran isn't just another conflict. No way. It's one of the most dangerous and complicated situations you could possibly imagine. And the fallout? It wouldn't just stay in the Middle East. It would ripple out and hit the entire global economy. The stakes are just unbelievably high for everybody involved.
So, where does this strength come from? Well, the first piece of the puzzle isn't a missile or a tank. It's the land itself. Iran's geography basically makes the whole country a natural-born fortress.
And just look at these numbers. They really tell the story. Iran is just huge. We're talking 1.6 million square kilometers, more than 80 million people. Now put that next to, say, Israel, which is about 22,000 square kilometers with around 10 million people. This isn't just about being bigger, it's about something called strategic depth. It's a whole different ballgame.
So what does all that size mean in a fight? Well, for one, trying to invade on the ground would be an absolute nightmare. But it's more than just that. Look at where Iran is. It controls the Strait of Hormuz. That's the choke point for a huge chunk of the world's oil. That gives them a massive lever they can pull to mess with the entire global economy. You don't just attack a country, you attack a geographical giant.
But okay, geography is just one part of it. The second pillar here is Iran's military. And trust me, it has gone through a huge transformation.
And this quote from Iran's army chief just says it all, doesn't it? This is not the Iran of the 1980s. He's basically telling the world, everything you think you know about us, forget it. The army from the Iran-Iraq War is ancient history. They see themselves as a military of the future.
And here's what he's talking about. They've poured money into things that level the playing field. We're talking about incredibly advanced drones, long-range missiles that can hit targets pretty much anywhere in the region, and brand new warships that can cause some serious problems in the Persian Gulf.
And it's not just about the tech, it's about the people. Check out this number, 500,000, 500,000. And that's not their whole army. That's just one part of it, and it happens to be the most important part.
Right. We're talking about the Pasdaran, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. These guys aren't your average soldiers. They are the absolute elite, ideologically committed, highly trained, and fiercely loyal. They're seen as the tip of the spear, ready for anything. This force is the real heart of Iran's military power.
Okay, so we've got the fortress of geography, and we've got a modern, powerful military. But there's a third piece here, and it's a real game changer. Iran isn't alone anymore. Not by a long shot. They've been busy making some very powerful friends.
First up, Russia. This isn't just a casual friendship, it's a deep strategic partnership. That means Russia's got their back at the UN, and it could also mean Iran gets its hands on advanced Russian military tech. That's a huge deal.
And then you've got China. China is a massive economic partner. They buy a ton of Iranian oil, which basically gives Iran a financial lifeline to get through all those sanctions. That connection alone gives them a lot of breathing room on the world stage.
And it's not just about the big guys like Russia and China. Iran has been working hard to build stronger ties with other key Islamic nations in the region. So now, when things get tense with the West, these countries are less likely to pile on. It creates this kind of regional buffer that makes any kind of attack way more complicated. All right, so let's pull all these threads together. We've got the land,
the military, the alliances. So how does it all add up to create this paradox we talked about at the beginning? Well, it really comes down to these pillars of power. You've got the strategic geography, that natural fortress. You've got the modern, massive military, led by that elite Pasdaran force. You've got this growing network of friends, both big and small. And, holding it all together is this fourth piece, a very unified leadership under Ayatollah Khamenei, which has proven it can withstand incredible pressure. And here's the bottom line. When world leaders do the math on what a war with Iran would actually cost, they're not just looking at one thing. They're looking at this whole package. And they realize this wouldn't be like the wars in Iraq or Afghanistan. Not even close. This would be a fight against a huge, unified country with advanced tech, natural defenses, and powerful allies. And that is exactly why they hesitate.
Which, of course, leaves us with one big question for the future. We've seen how Iran got so strong. But what happens next? With this new confidence and all this power, are we watching the entire balance of power in the Middle East shift for good? Well, that's definitely something we all need to keep our eyes on.